Hi besties, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So if you don't know, we are doing a set of more chill videos today because I did a video a couple days ago and it was a lot more chill and people were like, hey, I really appreciated this. So I thought today we may as well do it. It's the start of the week. It is currently 8 AM. So let's just talk. We have a lot to get through. There are so many topics that are happening at once right now. The internet is a lot right now. I say internet. And people come for me for it, so I really tried to say internet. Ugh, people keep coming for my accent. Anyway, yeah, I always say internet. Besides the point. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about is Tati Westbrook. Now, as we're aware, the full situation with James Charles is so beyond drama. So beyond us talking about it at this stage. If you're not aware of what we're talking about, because people were like, Adam, what situation with James Charles in my last video? Because that's how good at hiding stuff and brushing, you know, evidence away and brushing victims coming forward away and, you know, silencing people on social media James Charles is. That people are literally not sure of what we're talking about anymore. Let me remind you, because it's insane. James Charles, within the past couple months, especially, has been exposed time after time again by alleged victims saying that he allegedly G-R-O-O-M-E-D'd them and was just very inappropriate with them. And by inappropriate, I mean sending NUDE photos and in return getting NUDE photos back. So whenever it comes to James Charles, I think this is something that needs to be handled in a more serious matter. And this is something that needs to be handled less than a week after James Charles's expose from a 16-year-old boy. He was at the Kids' Choice Awards being nominated for the Kids' Choice Awards. Then, he collaborated on YouTube with a 16-year-old. This man doesn't care. And so, what we're going to be talking about today is the full approach Tati Westbrook took and how that aged. And how we think she's feeling right now, because it's something that I talked to my friends about. And I was like, I want to talk to the besties about it too. And I tweet about it all the time. And you know, you give your feedback. And I love opening up the conversation always to the YouTube besties. So that's what we're going to do. James Charles gets away with everything. You may disagree with me, but the facts and evidence are there. After the Bye Sister video that Tati Westbrook did, she kind of did him a big career favor in the long run because he got so brutally cancelled very quickly that anything that he is getting cancelled for post-2019, people are like, oh, we don't want to come for James. You know, James had a really bad time in 2019. So Tati has literally set him up, and he's one of the few people who will always evade things happening because people don't want to jump on something, even if it's completely true, and even if it completely warrants it and is necessary, because they're like, oh, but what happened in 2019? And don't get me wrong, we've been supporting James throughout that entire Bye Sister, you know, thing and looking back on it. But the more and more time goes on, the more I'm realizing that he uses that to his advantage. He uses that particular event in terms of Tati Westbrook coming forward saying that she believes that James Charles is a Predator. And so it's almost completely discredited anyone who comes forward about James, and there are a lot in the future. Which is completely disgusting and sad, but I guess that's how Hollywood works, and that's horrible to say. We see it with big celebrities, we see it with big directors, and we're seeing it with James Charles. James Charles benefits from the public being too scared to call him out. Meaning, alleged victims will be silenced, and no one will really call it out, even past, like, maybe a week. Like, who are you really seeing talking about the James Charles situation these days? People kind of stopped 2 or 3 weeks ago because, you know, he's going to upload his videos again. He already has been, even a couple days after the allegations. He basically released a statement on Twitter saying that, yes, it did happen. He said, no, I am not a G-R-O-O-M-E-R, but then in the same sentence said, you know, I received these photos. So he was in possession, to my understanding of how that works, of child Yeah. And isn't that something you go to, like, jail for? So, then I started thinking, and I was like, Tati Westbrook has been completely fucked based on the Bi Sister video. She literally quite single-handedly killed her career. And Tati Westbrook was known as being unproblematic, minding her own business, and just kind of like the boss lady on YouTube. You know, she just did her little makeup reviews and she never got involved in drama. Since the Bi Sister, things have just been falling more and more apart. Then she came back with the Breaking Her Silence video. I was on her side with that. I still am. In which she basically said that Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star were the leading factors that manipulated her into making a video calling James Charles out for inappropriate behavior. And now looking back on that as well, I'm like, what further behavior were they talking about? You know, Shane and Jeffree. Not sticking up for them, but I'm like, it's an interesting thing to look further into. So the Breaking Her Silence video, I was on her side. I think a lot of us were, a lot of us weren't. And then she's been silent again. She broke her motherfucking silence to go into a silence. And since then, she's been getting sued and suing people. Things aren't looking too good for Tati Westbrook. And the Katie Joy lawsuit is quickly falling apart. And I thought she had a good case, but it's like quickly falling apart. And then she's being sued by her business partner. And all of this started from her making that video about James Charles. So my question is, how does Tati Westbrook react in 2021 that something she did in 2019, warranted, is still affecting her now? However, James Charles, 2019, 2021, 3 years later, is still getting accused by more people of the exact same thing that she said about him. It's important to note as well that she since apologized to James Charles and said that they were on good terms. But I'm just extremely interested to know that she talks about there being a voice memo with an alleged victim of James Charles. Blair White talks about it, Jeffree Star, Shane Dawson, all these people. So I'm like, did she speak too soon? Did she speak to try, you know, save her connections with James? Did she feel bad? Like, how does someone who completely ruined her career by calling her friend out for being a P-word react to 3 years later, every single year, every couple of weeks, he gets accused by another person of the exact same thing? And now people always make the argument with James Charles that, oh yeah, these people are doing it for clout or whatever like that. And I feel like a lot of us looked at it like that for the first 7. Oh, they're doing it for clout. They're trying to use James. Poor James, he can never find a boyfriend. And now, I think, as time goes on again, we're like, okay. First time, second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, not a 6th time. But a 7th, not an 8th. There are time and time and time again the exact same approach from James Charles. And some of them he straight up addresses and he's like, this was inappropriate, this shouldn't have happened. Isn't that just confirming it? So what does that say about the countless other ones, and probably the countless other ones who haven't spoken up? And it's like Tati risked it all. ALL for that. So I put on my YouTube community and said the following. I said, besties, what do we feel like Tati is feeling right now about James being exposed for what she exposed him for, but she got destroyed over? And here's some of the responses. So Naima said she did say in her follow-up video, which was the apology video, that she did not lie in the Bi Sister video. It seems like she didn't. I think she let her emotions get the best of her and had bad people in her ear. I do wish she would come back and make a statement. And here's the thing as well. Shouldn't she do the right thing? Shouldn't she do the right thing if she so badly believes this about James Charles and now there's all of this in the present day? I don't know. My opinion on Tati changes very much every single day. But whenever I think about it like that, it's like she allegedly had so much to work with back then. And now we know that there's so much to work with. But she is saying that she didn't lie in that video, but then she's saying that she's friends with James again. It's extremely suspicious in my opinion. What do you think, bestie? So then Chloe G said, if I were Tati, oof, She damaged her reputation, was manipulated, lost her closest friends, then she befriends James again, only to find out he really is as bad as what she once was told. Sheesh. Miss Thing got the bad end of the bargain no matter what. Yeah, in both ways. And she thought she was doing the right thing by, you know, befriending James, and then this comes out again and it makes her look like a hypocrite. Her reputation will still, you know, be the same, or never be the same, sorry, anyways. And then people are agreeing with Chloe in the responses, and then someone said, Alexis Grady, I think she's feeling a lot of things. Probably some anger for believing James when they started to reconnect, and for backtracking. It's important to note that she very much so did backtrack in the Breaking Her Silence video. So her coming out now and saying that, you know, actually, I take it all back, contradicts that one. And honestly, she's so far in it at this stage that if she says, oh, I contradicted this, which contradicted my first video about my first statements about Shane and Jeffree, but then it's like, girl, we don't care. Like, pick a narrative and stick with one. So, Alexis said, I think she has a lot of feelings, probably anger for believing James when they started to reconnect, and for backtracking. Now, I do believe a big factor of her reconnecting with James was just to kind of get back at Shane and Jeffree. I think all of us knew that from Summer, whenever she was posting shady tweets, you know, insinuating that she was going to come for Jeffree and Shane and telling them, you know, that they need to be silent because she has no problem releasing all this information. I mean, I think she only got back at James because James is in a good public standing, and it was definitely a big F you to Jeffree and Shane, who were crumbling at that moment. Sad because they were true and she was right in the first place and could have stopped this from happening to these new children, allegedly. That's why my opinion on Tati now is a bit more shady than what it was, you know, even last month. Because I'm like, if it was true what you knew, and we're seeing all this, you chose to reconnect? Mary said, I don't know how she's feeling because in her Breaking Her Silence video, not all these bullshit names, she said that James forgave her. And then Phoebe responded and said, I think they made an agreement more so than being friends again. This is my opinion. So that's also interesting to know. And then Sarah said, she's probably just feeling really good about herself, but also pissed off. And I'm like, yeah, she can feel so good about herself and be like, oh, I was right to a certain extent. But then she's like, I literally risked my entire company and my entire reputation for this. Was it worth it? Over James Charles? Girl, no. Just think as well, this person who's so unproblematic and is known for not getting in drama, single-handedly created probably one of the biggest dramas in YouTube history. That, the Logan Paul Forest, something with PewDiePie, it's up there, if not the #1. Mariah said she might just be feeling so hurt by trusting James when he denied everything. And again, it's like whatever James was telling her, but then again that feeds that, you know, if she's going to call Shane and Jeffree out for feeding stuff in her ear, why isn't she calling James out for doing that? It's messy. Tina said, well, in her most recent video, she did claim these were lies fed to her by Shane and Jeffree, so if that's true, it must be horribly confusing and weird to her. And yes, that's great that I'm reading this one right after what I said. That means that the same thing, then, is probably happening with James to her. And it's like, she can't trust anybody? And she's so deep in this now that no one really cares about anyone but themselves, so it's kind of like just throwing her on the line. Not good either way. Aja said, probably relieved, honestly, Adam, but personally, I'm still uncomfortable with the fact that she originally revealed these accusations, my apologies, because of a vitamin deal. But also feel awful because she was manipulated by all these creepy men. And I think, again, it all stems back to she started this over gummy bear drama. And that's why it's also hard to, you know, feel bad for her. But then I feel bad for her because I know how much pressure was put on her. But just knowing it was started over multivitamins. You know multivitamins that, like, come in, like, a fucking container like this? Over that. Someone said, I'm sure she's sipping a martini in her baller-ass living room with her dogs, smiling. Then again, she's made her money and, you know, she doesn't have to come back to YouTube. We keep saying that her reputation is ruined. She can just continue making money off Halo Beauty. And if she wins the lawsuits, even more money. But then again, she's spending a lot of money to do the lawsuits, so it's like, at what stage is it not worth it? You know what I mean? She seems to just be doing the most right now, but doing nothing at all. And I mean that in the most respectful way. Debbie Dobbles, who we love, said she's probably just feeling validated. Yeah, okay, so Elena said she jumped to conclusions the first time around and let her emotions make the decisions for her. You know, because she felt personally hurt and for fear of potential victims. So now we're seeing that there are not only potential, but alleged. So how is she reacting in this? Then she tried to give him the benefit of the doubt and mend the hurt she caused James without hard evidence. And then months later, these allegations over James surface once again. She is doing what everyone wishes the rest of these lying and manipulative creators would do and take a long break from her channel. If she comes back, her following will die out and she'll have a small group of loyal fans, you know, that will sustain her on the platform. And I think that will honestly be the best thing for her, because if she can just, you know, stay to her own thing, like, again, no one's really checking up on Tati Westbrook these days. Again, don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but having her own smaller following, and again, the longer she waits, the less people will want to watch. And you know, if it's not about drama, people are just waiting for drama, she'll lose a lot of subscribers. So I mean, that's all inevitable. Remember, she gained millions upon millions of subscribers over the course of 3 days and then lost them all again. Not good. Hannah said, probably feeling really stupid for backtracking. Everyone involved in this is trash. Yep. So, people are saying that, I have a genuine question. Are we letting Tati, Shane, and Jeffree off the hook for bringing this to light years ago? Does this vindicate them and their claims? I'm curious about what everyone thinks about this now. I know for me, it makes me rethink this for sure. Okay, I think that's a good point, and we're gonna end it on this. So you're saying, like, should we have went as hard on Shane and Jeffree for telling her this information about James? I still think yes, because at the stage of that, we were being told that it was potential victims. So there was no stories, is what we were being told. And James debunked the one person they were claiming. But in 2021, we are seeing alleged victims. Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star, don't need you feeling bad for them. They're horrible people. Tati, also the same. James, the same. So I think a different logic applies now, and we have to look at it in a different way. I think so. Bestie, I want to know what you're thinking. A lot to unpack. I want to know what you're thinking. We can talk about it below. If you want to do a couple paragraphs, I'll read them, I'll respond. I would really appreciate it. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. I love you, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.